In the early years of the 20th century, the seeds of a cataclysmic conflict were sown across Europe. This chapter delves into the geopolitical landscape, exploring the alliances, rivalries, and tensions that set the stage for the outbreak of World War I. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in Sarajevo in June 1914 proved to be the spark that ignited the powder keg, unraveled the intricate web of alliances, as nations found themselves entangled in a complex network of mutual defense agreements. Diplomatic maneuvering and ultimatums escalated tensions, and by August 1914, the major powers of Europe found themselves hurtling towards war. The chapter chronicles the last desperate attempts at diplomacy, the ominous mobilization of armies, and the ominous realization that the world was on the brink of an unprecedented and devastating conflict. Diplomatic maneuvering and ultimatums escalated tensions, and by August 1914, the major powers of Europe found themselves hurtling towards war. The chapter chronicles the last desperate attempts at diplomacy, the ominous mobilization of armies, and the ominous realization that the world was on the brink of an unprecedented and devastating conflict. As the great powers of Europe entered the abyss, the prelude to chaos unfolded, laying the foundation for a war that would reshape the course of history. As the summer of 1914 dawned, the world witnessed the swift and unrelenting march of armies, signaling the commencement of the Great War. This chapter immerses us in the opening acts of World War I, exploring the rapid mobilization, strategic movements, and the thunderous roar of artillery that characterized the early days of the conflict. The German invasion of Belgium and subsequent push towards France marked a brutal initiation into the reality of modern warfare. The chapter unravels the unfolding battles along the Western Front, where the clash of armies unleashed a torrent of destruction and set the tone for the protracted struggle ahead. Simultaneously, on the Eastern Front, Russian forces engaged the Germans and Austro-Hungarians in a theater of war, marked by vast landscapes and strategic maneuvers. The scale and speed of mobilization on both fronts showcased the industrial might of the nations involved, as well as the staggering human cost of the conflict. The Guns of August narrates the relentless offensive and defensive maneuvers, the early casualties, and the shifting dynamics of a war that, in its opening stages, seemed poised to be a swift and decisive contest. Little did the world know that the Guns of August would herald the beginning of a prolonged and harrowing conflict that would reshape the face of Europe and beyond. The year 1915 unfolded as a bleak and harrowing chapter in the annals of World War I. Defined by the grim realities of trench warfare, this chapter delves into the entrenched battlegrounds that stretched across the Western Front, where soldiers endured unimaginable hardships and faced the relentless onslaught of modern warfare. Trenches, once seen as temporary defensive positions, evolved into a nightmarish labyrinth, stretching for hundreds of miles from the North Sea to the Swiss border. Explore the intricacies of trench construction, the constant threat of enemy attacks, and the ever-present specter of disease that haunted these subterranean landscapes. Life in the trenches became a daily struggle for survival. Soldiers contended with mud, rats, lice, and the constant fear of enemy assaults. The chapter unfolds the psychological toll of living in these claustrophobic and perilous conditions, where the line between life and death blurred in the perpetual haze of war, as the trenches became the epicenter of a war, characterized by stalemates and attrition. New weapons and tactics emerged in a desperate bid to break the deadlock. From gas attacks to underground tunneling, the chapter explores the evolving strategies that sought to gain an advantage in the face of the entrenched horror that defined the Western Front in 1915. The year 1916 unfolded as a crucible of bloodshed and attrition, marked by some of the most devastating battles of World War I. This chapter delves into the relentless confrontations that characterized this period, where the strategies of attrition and the quest for strategic advantage exacted a staggering toll on both sides of the conflict. The Battle of the Somme, a defining engagement on the Western Front, became synonymous with the unprecedented scale of destruction. Explore the meticulous planning, the catastrophic human cost, and the sheer brutality of a battle that aimed to break the deadlock, but instead entrenched the war further into a quagmire of suffering. On the Eastern Front, the Brusilov offensive saw the Russian army launching a massive assault against the Central Powers. The chapter chronicles the scale and ambition of this Eastern Front campaign, highlighting the immense casualties and the far-reaching consequences that reverberated through the region. As the battles of attrition raged on, new technologies and tactics emerged, further transforming the nature of warfare. From the use of tanks to the intensification of artillery barrages, the chapter examines the evolving strategies employed by military commanders seeking a breakthrough in the seemingly interminable conflict. Battles of Attrition 1916 captures the essence of a year that witnessed unprecedented carnage, where the hopes for a decisive victory faded into the harsh reality of protracted warfare. The toll on soldiers and civilians alike underscored the profound and enduring impact of World War I on the collective psyche of the nations involved. The year 1917 ushered in a transformative phase of World War I, where the conflict underwent profound shifts in both its scope and dynamics. This chapter explores the changing phases of war, examining the entry of new nations, evolving strategies, and the relentless adaptation to the challenges posed by modern warfare. The United States, previously on the periphery of the conflict, emerged as a major player following its entry into the war. Delve into the factors that propelled the U.S. onto the global stage and the impact of its military and economic contributions to the Allied cause. Meanwhile, the Eastern Front witnessed seismic changes with the Russian Revolution, leading to the overthrow of the Romanov monarchy and the rise of Bolshevik rule. The withdrawal of Russia from the war significantly altered the geopolitical landscape and released German forces to focus on the Western Front. The chapter also explores the changing nature of warfare itself, as technological innovations and strategic adaptations took center stage. From the use of new weapons like tanks and machine guns to the refinement of air warfare, the face of battle underwent a dramatic evolution in 1917. Amidst these transformations, the war exacted an ever-increasing toll on soldiers and civilians. The chapter unfolds the human stories behind the changing phases of war, capturing the resilience, sacrifice, and the indomitable spirit of those caught in the maelstrom of one of the most consequential conflicts in human history. The year 1917 proved to be a watershed moment in World War I, not only for its impact on the battlefield but also for the seismic political shifts that reverberated across the global stage. This chapter explores the revolutionary upheavals that transformed the course of the war and the destinies of nations. Central to this narrative is the Russian Revolution, a seismic event that shook the foundations of the Eastern Front and covered the dynamics that led to the overthrow of the Romanov dynasty, the rise of the Bolsheviks under Vladimir Lenin, and the subsequent withdrawal of Russia from the war. As the flames of revolution spread, other nations faced internal strife and upheaval. Explore the socio-political landscapes in Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, where discontent and dissent fueled aspiration for change and reshaped the alliances and strategies of the Central Powers. The chapter also delves into the impact of these revolutions on the global diplomatic stage. Witness the reactions of the Allies and the Central Powers to the changing dynamics, as both sides sought to exploit the opportunities presented by the revolutionary fervor. Revolution and Upheaval 1917 paints a vivid picture of a world in flux, where the traditional order crumbled under the weight of revolutionary fervor. As nations grappled with internal upheavals, the geopolitical landscape shifted, setting the stage for further complexities and challenges on the eve of the war's critical juncture. As the clock ticked towards 1918, the tides of World War I began to shift, ushering in a pivotal chapter that would determine the course of the conflict. This chapter explores the events of 1918, a year marked by strategic offensives, shifting alliances, and the decisive moments that heralded the turning of the tide. The Second Battle of the Marne, a pivotal engagement on the Western Front, unfolds as a critical juncture in the war. Delve into the dramatic ebb and flow of this battle, where Allied forces successfully repelled the last major German offensive, signaling a reversal in the momentum of the conflict. Simultaneously, on the Eastern Front, the Central Powers faced challenges as a resurgent Russia, under new Bolshevik leadership, entered into peace negotiations, further altering the dynamics of the war. Witness the impact of these diplomatic shifts on the strategic calculations of both the Allies and the Central Powers. The chapter also examines the 100 Days Offensive, a series of coordinated Allied assaults that would ultimately lead to the collapse of the Central Powers. Follow the relentless advances, the breakthroughs, and the challenges faced by soldiers on both sides during this climactic phase of the war. The Tide Turns 1918 captures the unfolding drama of a year that witnessed a dramatic reversal in the fortunes of nations embroiled in the conflict. The balance of power shifted. The world stood on the brink of a new era, where the echoes of war would resonate far beyond the battlefield. While the battles raged on the front lines, the home fronts of nations involved in World War I were arenas of profound challenges and transformations, and political upheavals experienced by civilians as they navigated the arduous journey through the war years. Explore the unprecedented demands placed on the civilian population as countries mobilized for a total war. Witness the implementation of war economies, rationing, and the shifting roles of men and women in societies grappling with the demands of an all-encompassing conflict. The chapter examines the psychological toll on civilians as they endured prolonged periods of uncertainty, loss, and sacrifice. Governments employed propaganda to shape public opinion, while societies grappled with the profound changes brought about by the war. Economic challenges loomed large, with industries redirected towards war production, leading to shortages of essential goods. The war effort placed immense pressure on the workforce, and nations faced the delicate balance of maintaining morale on the home front while sustaining the war machine. As the war progressed, anti-war sentiment, pacifist movements, and social upheavals emerged. Governments responded with varying degrees of repression, seeking to maintain control over populations increasingly weary of the protracted conflict. Homefront Challenges 1914 to 1918 sheds light on the resilience of civilian populations and the complex interplay between governments, societies, and individuals during a time of unparalleled upheaval. The chapter paints a nuanced portrait of life on the home front, capturing the endurance, sacrifice, and adaptability of those whose lives were irrevocably transformed by the exigencies of war. As the echoes of artillery fire gradually subsided in 1918, the world witnessed the crumbling of age-old empires, reshaping the geopolitical landscape in the aftermath of World War I. This chapter explores the disintegration of empires and the reconfiguration of national boundaries that marked the closing chapters of the Great War. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, a sprawling conglomerate of diverse ethnicities, faced internal dissent and disintegration. Delve into the unraveling of this once mighty empire, as nationalistic aspiration and separatist movements led to the emergence of independent states across Central and Eastern Europe. The Ottoman Empire, known as the sick man of Europe, faced its final convulsions, witnessed the collapse of Ottoman power, the emergence of the Republic of Turkey under Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, and the redrawing of the map of the Middle East under the auspices of the post-war settlements. The German Empire, once an imposing force, succumbed to internal turmoil and external pressure. Explore the abdication of Kaiser Wilhelm II, the establishment of the Weimar Republic, and the transformative consequences that reverberated through German society and politics. The chapter also scrutinizes the impact of these imperial collapses on the global balance of power and the seeds they planted for future conflicts. The emergence of new nations, the redrawing of borders, and the dissolution of centuries-old empires set the stage for a period of profound political and cultural transformation. The end of Empire's 1918 marks a momentous juncture in history, where the demise of imperial structures paved the way for the birth of new nations, and the beginning of a complex and uncertain post-war era. With the guns falling silent on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, the armistice marked the end of hostilities on the Western Front. This chapter delves into the immediate aftermath of World War I, exploring the complex challenges of post-war reconstruction, diplomatic negotiations, and the profound societal changes that characterized the period. The Armistice of Compiègne brought a temporary halt to the fighting, but the chapter unfolds the intricate diplomatic negotiations that would culminate in the Treaty of Versailles. Explore the deliberations, the negotiations, and the competing interests that shaped the terms of peace and laid the foundation for the post-war order, as nations grappled with the staggering human and material costs of the conflict. The chapter examines the immense challenges of rebuilding societies and economies shattered by war. Witness the struggles of returning veterans, the impact of war debts, and the socio-economic disruptions that unfolded in the wake of the armistice. The League of Nations, a novel experiment in international cooperation, emerges as a central theme. Explore the aspiration for global peace, the shortcomings of the League, and the seeds of future conflicts that lingered amidst the rhetoric of a new world order. The chapter also unravels the societal upheavals in the post-war era, including the influenza pandemic, the emergence of new artistic and intellectual movements, and the societal changes that laid the groundwork for the tumultuous decades that followed. Armistice and Aftermath 1918 captures the complexities of the immediate post-war period, where the euphoria of peace was intertwined with the sobering realities of reconstruction, diplomatic tensions, and the enduring legacies of a conflict that had reshaped the world. In the aftermath of World War I, the world grappled with the profound and enduring consequences of a conflict that left scars on both the collective consciousness and the geopolitical landscape. This chapter explores the tumultuous interwar period, marked by the legacies of suffering, unresolved tensions, and the seeds of future conflicts. As nations attempted to rebuild in the aftermath of the war, the Treaty of Versailles cast a long shadow. Explore the contentious terms of the treaty, the economic hardships it imposed, and the resentment it sowed among defeated nations, setting the stage for the complexities of the interwar era. The chapter unfolds against the backdrop of economic challenges, societal upheavals, and the rise of authoritarian regimes. Witness the impact of the Great Depression, the emergence of new political ideologies, and the fragile stability that precariously balanced on the brink of global uncertainty. The legacy of suffering extended beyond the physical and economic realms. Explore the psychological toll on a generation scarred by war, as survivors grappled with trauma and societies confronted the challenges of collective memory, mourning, and commemoration. In the midst of this turbulent period, diplomatic tension simmered, laying the groundwork for the eruption of World War II. The unresolved issues and resentments stemming from the First World War played a crucial role in shaping the geopolitical landscape and contributing to the onset of another global conflict. Legacy of Suffering 1919 to 1939 paints a poignant portrait of an era marked by the enduring echoes of a war that had promised to be the war to end all wars. As the world navigated the complexities of rebuilding, reconciliation, and political recalibration, the legacy of suffering cast a long shadow over the fragile peace that precariously held sway. The aftermath of World War I reverberated far beyond its immediate conclusion, shaping the trajectory of the 20th century and influencing the dynamics of the modern world. This final chapter examines the enduring echoes of the Great War, spanning from the 1940s to the present day. As the world plunged into the maelstrom of World War II, the unresolved issues and geopolitical tensions left by the First World War resurfaced. Explore the connections between the two conflicts, as the geopolitical landscape once again became a battleground for competing ideologies and global supremacy. The division of Germany, the onset of the Cold War, and the emergence of the nuclear age are explored in the context of the lingering consequences of the Great War. Witness how the legacies of political, economic, and territorial arrangements forged in the aftermath of World War I continued to shape global events and conflicts. The chapter also delves into the commemoration and reinterpretation of World War I in the post-war era. Explore how societies grappled with the memory of the conflict, erected monuments, and engaged in ongoing discussions about the meaning and lessons of the Great War. The echoes of World War I resonate in the ongoing challenges to global peace and stability. From the decolonization movements of the mid-20th century to contemporary conflicts influenced by the redrawing of borders and unresolved geopolitical tensions, the chapter traces the enduring impact of the First World War on the geopolitical order in the realm of culture, literature, and art. The echoes of World War I reverberate in diverse expressions, from the Lost Generation writers to the reflections in contemporary works. The cultural legacy of the war continues to inspire and shape narratives about conflict, loss, and resilience. Echoes of World War I 1940s, present, serves as a reflective lens on the lasting repercussions of a conflict that, while officially concluded in 1918, left an indelible mark on the subsequent decades and continues to influence the world in ways that extend far beyond the boundaries of time.